Good morning. Call the meeting. You folks in the back row would just kind of settle down a little bit. We'll get to the front. Try back.
What do you want?
You show up for a meeting and things are just in disarray.
I'm not even asking for money. Just wait.
Good morning to all. We'll call the meeting to order, and we'll start off with roll call. Paul Buney. See Paul yet. Brian Deppy. Keith Fox. Bob Hewton here. Danny Bott. Richard Wertz. I understand Paul will not be here, correct? Okay. So we do have a quorum, and we'll begin the meeting with the approval of the minutes from the meetings of March 15th, March 22nd, and March 29th. Unless we
had a busy March.
Unless we need to pull them out individually, we could just move to approve them as a whole.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second for approval of the minutes as a group. Any discussion? Those in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes approved. Going to offer the floor to Dr. David Clendenny, School Corporation.
Good morning, everyone. Just wanted to give a brief update. This past weekend, we had 635 plus participants in the second annual Google Summit for Education. It was a great event. The keynote speaker was Adam Bello from the White House. He is the Education Innovation Specialist at the White House, and we were able to capture a lot of energy and excitement. Pleased to announce they're coming back for a third year on April 8th and 9th of 2017. So with that announcement, I just want to continue to say thank you for the RDC's commitment to education in our district, in our community. It means a lot to our kids, and we're seeing some great things. We actually had a group of kids present at the conference, and heard a lot of praise for their words, and then in addition to a couple of our teachers presenting. So with that, I just want to give a brief highlight and answer any questions, but just say thank you. If you had a chance to see around town, we did have Google Dots at some of the establishments. We had them at the Willard, Gromar, Triple Play, Scotty's Brew House, and that was to encourage people to go there. They were to take a selfie, and they were entered into a drawing for different prizes. So trying to push some things. I know if we could have one thing we would add, and that would be a place to stay. I continue to hear over and over again people either having to go to Greenwood or Taylorsville, and they really like Franklin. They want to continue to be a part of that. So I know the mayor continues to talk about that. We're on track to do some of those things, but that will really be a big benefit when we can capture and keep people here in Franklin with a nice hotel. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any old business to come before the commission? We'll get into new business. The first item up is the resolution 2016-16 shell building tax issue. This is the one over the Redevelopment/Exco we talked about last month.
In the minutes of March 15th, it showed that that amount was 9.5 months of accrued tax for the project. And it was $32,000 a half. So I would make a motion to approve resolution 2016-6.
We probably need Richard's motion to read by title only.
Make a motion to read by title.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor of the motion to read by title only, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. And then we'll now conduct a public hearing. Have any comment, questions? If none, I'll declare the public hearing closed and ask for a motion for the approval of the resolution.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor of approval of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved. Resolution 2016-18B, this is the East King and Paris Drive improvements. We talked about this. Actually, this is new stuff.
That is correct, Mr. President. This is the actual construction contract that was bid a few weeks ago. We entertained this subject to your approval this morning at yesterday evening's Board of Works meeting. You'll notice the contract sets forth that Reeve Riley Construction was the responsive low bidder in the amount of $4,367,391.50. The engineer's estimate for this project, if you'll recall, we were about $5.5 million going in, and we managed to stay right in that arena going into the bid. So quite a substantial savings from a very competitive market on this one. But we have a pre-construction conference scheduled with the contractor beginning of next week, and hopefully be able to get started soon after that.
Travis, this takes us all the way from the interstate exit.
This takes us from the interstate on-off ramps to what will be an extension of Fairway Lakes Drive out to King Street. And it also includes the reconstruction of Paris Drive to include a roundabout instead of double 90. And it also, though it was bid as an alternate, we were well under budget, so we're moving forward with the tower construction at the corners of King and Paris and/or Lover's Lane.
Does not go down to where the proposed W exit is, it stops there at Fairway.
It does include the punching through of that road through to King Street, but it does not include King Street improvements all the way to that point. That portion of King Street improvements will be included with our federal aid, as well as relinquishment dollars that should be left over after we bid Jeff Forsyth in the first part of King later on this summer.
And construction is set to begin fairly soon, I understand.
Our bid documents set forth that we wanted to get started at the beginning of May. We haven't narrowed that to an exact date, but that's the intent.
Traffic will continue to be able to pass through.
King Street will have one lane open in both directions at all times. Paris, north of the two fast food restaurants, will be closed, but there are a couple of other ways into that neighborhood, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Paris, in between all of those commercial establishments, will have at least one lane open in both directions at all times.
What we're looking for here this morning is a resolution to read by title only, so we can conduct a public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor of the motion to read by title only, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. We will now conduct a public hearing on this matter. This is part of the bond proceeds which will be used for that this project.
We also have the contract that was approved at the Board of Works last night, and there is a signature page for the RDC as well, so I would like to include that with the resolution.
When we make our motion.
If we could, just authorize to sign that as well.
Anything from the public? I'll declare the public hearing closed and ask for a motion for approval of the resolution and authorization to sign the document referenced by Kristen.
Yeah, the agreement between the City of Franklin and Reeve Riley, between the Board of Works and the Redevelopment Commission.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor of approval of the resolution and the signing of the document, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Resolution approved. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Okay, moving on, we have a resolution 2016-19. This is confirming an area of the city of Franklin as an economic development area and approving the economic development plan for said area. And I'll call on Krista to kind of bring us up to date on what this is and how we came to this point.
Okay. This is the final step in the several step process to our creation of the US 31 TIF district. So this was started through resolution 2015-31. We had a meeting of the Redevelopment Commission on December 15th of 2015 where that declaratory resolution was approved. This has since gone to the Plan Commission in order to be determined that it conforms with the City of Franklin's comprehensive plan. They did approve that through resolution 2016-02. And then it also went before the Common Council on March 7th of 2016 and was adopted by the council. And so it is back before you today with the final, for the final approval and confirming resolution. We do have, recall, the Barnes and Thornburg here, Jeff Peters with Peters Municipal Consultants that both worked on this project with us along with Rob Schaffstall. So they're here to answer any questions. And gentlemen, I don't know if you have anything you want to present or if you're just here for questions if anybody has them. But I think that this is the final step. We're ready to go at this point.
What we're looking for now is a motion to read by title only.
Second.
Discussion. Those in favor of approval of the motion to read by title only, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. We now conduct a public hearing. Does not appear to be any comments from the public. So I'll declare the public hearing closed and ask for a motion for approval of the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, those in favor of approval of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. This resolution is approved. Have everybody out here by 8:15. Just kidding, we've got another matter, important matter to talk about. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on our behalf. You're welcome to stick around. Thank you, though. New shell building outline update. Sheriff Krista, or you or Richard want to take this and go with it?
The shell building was talked about several weeks, and our attorney, Rob, drew up a shell building outline. And today, we're here to discuss it, and we have the parties that are involved. And Krista, you want to go through this?
I can. Rob's kind of the one that's.
Okay, so Rob
and
should.
I'll let him take it away.
So the basic idea here is that the parties, the landowner and the builder, approached the city last time and asked the Redevelopment Commission to pay the carrying costs that the builder incurred prior to it selling the completed building to the final end user. And the landowner agreed to defer its receipt of the payment for purchase of the real estate until that closing as well. And in that limited basis, then we put together the three-way agreement last time and conducted the shell building. So if we repeat that process, then most of this outline would still pertain, but we would simplify point number one, because instead of undertaking a search for the land and for the builder, I believe that we're being approached by the landowner and the builder asking us to repeat the same structure. So if we do that, if that's the way we proceed, then we would need to negotiate that three-way agreement again. And my guess is it would look very similar to what we did last time, with a couple of changes from lessons that we learned. And I'd be happy to answer the questions you have about that.
Do we have exact location and acreage? I assume, at least identified.
I don't know the answer to that. I know that there is an approximate location. I don't know the status of the survey.
Locations that were tentatively discussed in Summit's Hill.
Yes.
It is on Graham Road, on the Louisville property, and from completing the project.
Yeah, I remember some overheads that showed possible areas.
We have in our audience today, I know we have Chris King and Jim Bogelman from Redevelopment. Cheryl, I know you've been working behind the scenes as well on this, or taking part in that. We also have in the audience Rob Henderson, who worked quite a bit on the last deal with Fred and with our attorney on this. That I think, Rob, you're going to kind of step in on a volunteer and kind of work with us through this process as well. So I think we'll be, on our end up here, it'll be primarily Krista and Richard with an assist from Rob Henderson. Again, he's kind of a consulting type of role, kind of an unofficial thing. I don't know how you describe that. Again, working pretty closely with Rob, and essentially using the same players that we had before. Cheryl, you may have information, a little bit more detail about the property itself. Somebody, I saw you nod your head when we knew what the acreage and everything was on that, but
Yeah, we're still looking at the Franklin Business Park, and I know Fred Linville and Charlotte Sullivan are here, and I know they've had conversations with the mayor as well as Runabout. So, and I think they've had conversations with Richard. So as you indicated, Charlotte, I don't know if you want to speak to that, but they have come forward.
correct me if I'm wrong, Chris or Rob, I think today what we're here to do is really just provide an update of where we are in this process and that who the players are. That our intention right now is to work through Redevelopment and through the Linville family, and basically using the same outline that we did before. Again, as Rob mentioned, there'll be several changes to it, again, from things that we picked up on the last go around on this one. But I think we've identified it there up on that parcel up there on Graham Street, just across from the county shelter.
There's a 70-acre parcel there.
I think we're moving in that direction. I'm not sure there's any action that needs to be taken today, other than just to kind of let everybody know that we are moving in that direction. I think we have the endorsement of the administration to move ahead with this. And so we got one built. We kind of got a few other things that we had to get out of the way. Now we're in a position now we can move ahead with this and hopefully have as much success as we did on the last one. So.
If I might add, we did a quick count last night, and just this first quarter, there have been 16 leads for existing standalone buildings in the 50 to about 250,000 square foot footprint. So it's still the sweet spot, and that's kind of what we've all been, I think, Mayor, I don't know if you've got comments, but I think that's still the footprint that we're looking at.
16 leads for how many buildings?
16 leads for buildings of that 50,000 to 250,000 square foot
Okay, but I mean,
footprint.
how many buildings are sitting then for, say that's a sweet spot?
How many do we have?
Oh, if they're, are you saying that in this area, like, in this area where we are, not just Franklin, but Shelbyville and other places, how many buildings, you've got 16 leads for that size of a building. How many were sitting?
I see what you're saying.
Do you have an inventory of?
And when we get a lead in, sometimes we know what other communities they're looking at. But in the region, I know there's one in Henry County. I know Mooresville is getting ready to build one. And obviously, we don't count Hendricks County because they're all big box, you know, they're 1 million square feet,
Right.
600,000 square feet. But in the footprint we're looking at, I think those are the ones. Now, I'm not sure of some existing prior use buildings in Marion County, but statewide, I think the last time we did the search, there were 19 shell buildings statewide. Now, some of those counties we never compete with because they're too far away from our market
Mhm.
and our labor pool. Does that answer your question, Dan?
Yes, thank you.
And you guys, if I'm wrong on that, I think there's just 2. And then there's a couple up in Muncie, but again, that's not always our market.
Just an update from me. I've had conversations recently as of yesterday afternoon with Charlotte Sullivan, and I do believe that Linville Farms is another willing participant. We had that conversation yesterday, and I think everyone's excited. I think from my comfort level, what I would look for is obviously not looking for action today, but kind of the thumbs up to proceed forward with all the legal stuff to negotiate the economic development agreement for us to kind of pinpoint where this location of the new shell building would be, and also for all of us to determine the size. You know, is that 51,000 square foot expandable to 150,000? Is that what we're looking for again? You want to punt to us, Cheryl and Runabomb and us to kind of have that conversation and determine what we think based on the leads that JCDC is receiving. The state is kicking out there. What is that sweet spot? Is it still 51,000? Is it 75,000? What is that number? So then I think that we would then bring that back all to you with the agreed upon economic development agreement so we can get moving. Obviously, we're in a season to begin that kind of work. And so I would love to start having that construction, or at least that conversation, so we can start marketing as soon as possible and start generating some excitement and interest. We're missing one thumb today.
So we've had this conversation several times over the last couple of months, meetings, and so we wanted to present to you today the outline for kind of how this process would work and just kind of go over what we expect as far as starting the appraisals and the economic development agreement, and make sure that all the RDC was on board and the partners are on board, and then we'll actually have a formal document for you to look at for your next month's meeting. So at this point, it's just kind of an update and making sure we have the go-ahead to start proceeding with those.
I think it just goes back to the people that really have their eyes and ears day to day of what's going on out there to make that decision and come back to us and tell us what the best size, how it should be done. So I mean, that's the fact what you guys tell us.
I agree wholeheartedly, and I think that meeting should take place in the next couple of weeks, so we would have time to get it before our next scheduled meeting. And in agreement, the RDC should look at going ahead with the Indiana code to obtain 2 appraisals for the land, which has to be done regardless.
Because that means the survey would need to be done as well, I assume.
Yes, it is about a 30 to 60 day process when we order the appraisals. So we should probably start that project, or that portion of the shell building. Do we need a motion for that?
Was that a motion you made?
That was a motion, I think.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I presume this would be paid out of money that's already been appropriated, or is it require a separate resolution next month?
I would like to keep it as a separate resolution, similar to how we handled it last time. We set a maximum amount, and that way we can track it all under one resolution, and we can go ahead and get started, but those invoices wouldn't be paid until, we probably wouldn't even receive them until next month's meeting anyway, so.
All right, any other discussion? Thank you, Krista.
I believe last time we approved, I think it was up to $100,000 for all the miscellaneous, and we didn't spend near that, but
So that's what you would have in the resolution then? Okay. So essentially, the motion is to authorize starting the process of obtaining the appraisals, and 2 appraisals,
Yeah, survey.
and survey, with the understanding that we would be having a resolution presented at the next meeting for payment. So I guess we're a little bit ahead of the process, but I'm confident that we'll get it approved. Any other discussion? Those in favor of approval of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion approved. So that appears to be a hearty thumbs up.
Okay.
I don't know how you put that in the minutes. Get the signal sign for that.
Just a shameless plug, because I see 3 council members in the room, so I'll take an opportunity to, the position I requested last night, this shell building was not included in my conversation about how much time and how many projects we have going right now, so adding a shell building will be an additional strain on my time. It's a good problem to have, but it will be quite a bit of demand. I do know from the last shell building that it generated a ton of activity and a whole lot of time for Cheryl and I and Dana, so just a shameless plug. I know we got a meeting coming up in a couple of weeks where I requested some additional funds.
Maybe we can get the construction to spell out on the Graham Road, so we'll have that one blocked too.
Just
So.
do it.
Okay, thank you. So I think we all know who the folks involved in this are, and we'll keep you posted as we proceed, and look forward to getting another one going. So it's all out there, folks. So I guess at the same point, if there's any comment from anybody or anything that anybody'd like to say, you're certainly welcome to do so at this time. Again, it's not necessarily a public hearing, but I don't think this is anything. It's a closed thing. It's all out here. So, yeah, Robin.
Hi, good morning, Rob Henderson. Sitting up there last October, November, December, when Shell Building 2 was first talked about, and I saw, I just want to, mostly for the benefit of Abby, I started to write down 70 acres when that number was mentioned earlier. This is not a 70-acre project we're looking at. This is about an 11, 12-acre site within a larger 70-acre parcel that's just north of Premium Composite Technology. So that's the site, I think specifically that this body, that Mayor McGinnis and others came forward to last fall in support of narrowing it down and kind of focusing the efforts on one general location. With the residual benefit, hopefully, of having other outlots, maybe as small as 5 acres, to compete for smaller users as well, to develop an inventory like that. So I wanted to clarify that and get that. We're not looking at a 70-acre development. That would be a substantial heavy lift, and we're going to be just fine working on about 12 acres. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to help. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Rob.
I think it's important also to just remind everybody that when the last shell building was completed and Hetzco moved in, we also picked up a business that came to Cincinnati Street that made a big investment in that, in a structure that probably could have used some. Plus we had another, I think, building leased on Hurricane, and there were improvements made to get that. So, we not only just got Hetzco, but I think we picked up 2 other businesses as well and some additional improvements in the town. So there's not just a shell building that we're building, it's not just a company that we're doing, there's it's good fallout when we have this. So. Okay, we're on our way then. The next item is an update from our legal counsel on the 55 West Jefferson Street Old Post Brew Pub project update.
I met with Phil Warrenberg yesterday and discussed the status and his ideas about going forward. And the long and short of it is that he's waiting on a response from a lender on a loan request that he's made. And he thinks that if he gets the loan commitment, part of the requirement would be that we subordinate our mortgage, subordinate our assignment of rents, possibly subordinate life insurance, and extend the term of the agreement by 1 year. But he agrees that before he receives a written commitment to that effect, it's premature for us to really do anything. So I would expect that this week or today or soon, he'll be getting the response, and he'll share it with me, and I'll share it with you, and we'll know more at that time.
Essentially, that agreement was signed on June 20th, but it's actually dated at around June 30th, so we've got until that time frame to stay within that 2-year window. Not necessarily being specific on which date in June, but we're looking at the June timeframe for him to be able to provide us some sort of commitment in writing that they've obtained the financing. Then at that point, then we'll take up the issue of whether we extend the agreement or do those other actions that would be necessary for him to get the financing. Any questions, council, on that? Okay. Krista, I'll defer to you now as we move into other business and some of the reports that we have.
Okay, I have your March financial report in front of you, and that shows the cash balances at the beginning of the year as usual. It also shows interest earned, and then I added at the bottom any of the resolution or any of the resolutions on there that had been approved. Sure. If there are any questions on your March report or not, it shows your estimated cash balance at the end of the year. If there aren't any questions, the TIF bond project report has been updated. I did make some changes to that in regards to, I separated out projects that were approved at the top are from 2015. I tried to kind of put those more in chronological order. There were some large, like for instance, the downtown redevelopment projects were approved for $2 million, but since then there have been 3 projects that have kind of been split out of that. So I removed the $2 million figure and replaced it with those 3 resolutions we have. For number 9 is repair of 351 East Jefferson Street. See that a little better. Number 10 is the repairs at 57 North Main Street, which is Franklin Heritage and the Art Craft. And then number 12 is the Garment Factory and Wayne Street reconstruction project. So those are those 3 that made up that $2 million previously. And then I added the right-of-way expenses that have been approved, and then that was subtracted from the $7.2 million that was allocated for the interchange economic development plan. And now that we've approved that resolution for that amount of the $4.3 million, that'll be subtracted from that overall as well. Are there any questions on that? Okay. The cash flow analysis, there were just a few minor updates to this. And I know these are hard to read. These are available on the website if anybody wants to look at these a little closer. But we did have a couple resolutions that were removed from being under consideration to approved, and then I also added resolution that was approved earlier in the meeting for the Shell building tax issue. So for next month, that'll be moved from projects under consideration to approved projects. Are there any questions on that one?
And there are copies available.
There are, they're available for the audience. They're also attached to the agenda online.
Thank you, Krista. Anything else to bring before the meeting today?
I just had one announcement. Working with Jane and Peter's Municipal Consultants, she has compiled the annual report that was approved at a previous meeting into the overall TIF reporting that was due to the Gateway, and we'll be emailing you copies of that. That was submitted on the 15th through Gateway, and so we've got our state requirements on that, and you'll be forwarded copies of that. And just be on the lookout for that.
We're good on time today, it looks like.
Oh, so I can take my time, speak slowly. Just a friendly reminder that next Wednesday, the 27th, 6 o'clock at Beeson Hall, we have a public meeting, another public meeting to unveil and update everyone on the Jefferson Street project construction. That's hopefully starting in August. But this is for the entirety of Jefferson Street. So next Wednesday, the 27th, 6 o'clock, Beeson Hall, we have a public meeting.
We have a ribbon cutting Friday. We've been invited to it.
Long walk for you. Oh, yeah.
I was gonna make some parking joke, probably not right now. Actually, things are good. So, anything else? Thank you, Mayor. Anything from the floor? Janice, Cheryl, anything else you folks have?
We have, the chamber is presenting our second in a public affairs series. It's Thursday at 9 a.m., no charge, but we have a panel, William Barrett, attorney from Greenwood, Angela Chamberlain, CPA from Chamberlain Taylor, and Scott Ingram from Tilson and Jar. And they're going to be presenting on the current and proposed overtime regulations and rules. Be about an hour and a half. All you have to do is go to the chamber website, sign up, just so we know how many are coming. And that's this Thursday.
Cheryl? Cheryl, you got anything coming up?
Always. Yeah, we've got the farmer's market coming up May 14th, so soon. Super excited. Using the parking lot, so that's gonna be fun. And then Strawberries on the Squares, May 27th.
Anything, am I missing anybody? Anybody have anything else? Marty, just in general?
I'm good.
All right, we're good, okay. Nothing else, we'll declare the meeting closed. Thank you.